Hi, welcome everyone. It's Nigel Giam here, the lead GP training program director of the St Mary's Scheme, course director for Mentor MRCGP. I'm so happy to have Sarah join us. Congratulations, Sarah. Absolutely
Hi.
smashed the SCA. How are you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really good. Really relieved. Big weight off my
Amazing.
shoulders for
I
sure.
know, I know, and it's so nice to get this out of the way before Christmas. Now, Sarah is one of our trainees from our sister scheme, which is Imperial. And actually, you did so well in this exam. You're a top scorer, which is over 100. I think you scored over about 105, which is actually where we kind of thought you might be. But it takes, I suppose, certain behaviours to get into the top scoring mark zone, and it'd be good to share some of the behaviours that you manifested, practiced after the masterclass with your colleague Alice, who's also a top scorer. So maybe we can just get straight into it. In terms of data gathering, I mean, what do you think are some of the main game changers here to score well?
Yes, the main things for me, particularly that I took away from the course, were trying not to be too formulaic in
Yeah.
the data gathering. So really leaning into that narrative-based consultation style.
Yes.
Trying to avoid sort of taking a medical clerking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
unlearning some of those behaviors actually.
It can be quite difficult, actually, can't it, to unlearn clinically driven, symptom-driven behaviors? Because as you say, when we do undergraduate exams, and probably the last time you ever did a simulation for a lot of people would have been at medical school, where it is going through the motions of getting to a diagnosis. We've talked about cues. How important is the cue in data gathering?
Really important. So you always talk about never park a queue.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something I was doing before, kind of
Mm.
registering it, but thinking,
Mm.
oh, I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
I think what you find is because it's so time pressured, if you don't address it there and then, you might run out of time and forget to do
Definitely.
that.
Definitely. And I think in real life, often we have to park quite a lot of queues. Patients are coming in with multiple agendas, but actually, in a standardized exam, the queue really is the key to get to the secondary layer of the narrative and of the case. What we've heard, I suppose, from a lot of people who've come out of the exam is the amount of information you get in terms of case priming. It can range from a little to really quite a lot.
Mm.
How did you kind of deal with that when you had your 3 minutes, when you're fluxed with maybe two, 3 pages of notes that you need to look at? What are the pertinent and key things to do in case priming?
Yeah, so I think well, something that Alice and I had practiced was using those 3 minutes beforehand to write down significant things or questions that come
Yeah,
into your mind. So, and I think when you read it, just anything that stands out to
yeah,
you as significant or something that you might want to follow up on in the
mm,
history taking.
yeah,
So just you practice with a whiteboard is would be
yeah,
my advice. So
yeah,
practice priming whenever you're practicing cases with
yeah,
colleague or a
yeah,
friend,
yeah,
so that kind of becomes second nature
yeah,
because it can be really, really helpful. But
yeah,
like you say, there were cases where there was very little information,
yeah.
in which case even just the age can
Yes, it can give
trigger.
you yeah, it can give you a sense for potentially what the case might actually be about. So this aspect of practicing with a whiteboard is so important because although they do provide a kind of a virtual whiteboard you can use on the day, it's very difficult if you're kind of typing information and looking at the patient, and ultimately if you take your eyes off the patient you're going to lose that rapport and contact. Did you actually make any notes while you were talking with the patients on the day when you were data gathering, or were you just completely focused on the patient?
Yeah, so not whilst the consultation was happening.
Yeah.
I maybe once or twice circled something that I'd written,
Mm,
but the main thing was just writing during the priming. And
yeah.
I got a whiteboard that you can sort of stand up so that it
Yes.
was to look at.
Ah, that's really good, actually. So you don't actually have to look down. You can kind of have it
Yeah.
there, and so not necessarily take your eye contact off the patient. That's actually a really, really good tip. In terms of clinical management, what do you think the game changers are there?
So the main things for me, which I really had to work on, were committing to a diagnosis
Mm,
and committing to risk, which
yeah.
again were both things that you really drove home. So
Mm,
for example, if you are fairly sure what the diagnosis is, stating that.
mm,
If you're not, stating what you think the
yeah.
differentials are,
Yeah.
because that still shows you're working.
Yeah.
Um, and then sort of committing to risk.
Yeah.
So again, the way the exam's designed, it's sort of you are supposed to be able to give a management plan without
Mm.
seeing the patient in person.
Exactly, exactly.
But if you do feel that you really need to see them for whatever reason that is, I think stating why
Yeah,
and what you're going to do when you see them
yeah,
so that you're still committing to the management plan,
yeah,
even if part of that is examining them or
yeah,
seeing them
yeah.
still saying what you want to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that none of the cases are designed in such that you have to rely on an examination before you commit to risk. Your history alone should allow you to be able to decide whether something is potentially serious and requires risk escalation or not. And part of the examination is important. So, by all means, what we're saying is you don't avoid the examination. If you need to bring a patient in, you need to bring them in. But what we can't do is hide behind the examination and go, I literally don't know which way to go, whether it's serious or not serious.
Mm.
And this aspect around diagnosis is an interesting one because, again, in a remote assessment, they'll generally give you diagnoses which are relatively clear cut. If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's going to be a duck. But we're not expecting a list of 10 differentials either. So the key really is knowing how to move it forward with potentially your diagnosis, or if you don't have it, certainly what the exam's testing you on is, are you going to be brave enough to come down on one side of the fence, serious or not serious? I mean, we can't talk about the details of cases per se, but did you have any urgent unscheduled cases where you had to maybe send a patient to hospital or?
Yes, yeah, I did. I think what sort of helped me with that, if I felt I wasn't 100% sure, was sort of verbalizing that. So,
Yeah.
saying the fact that I'm actually quite worried about this
Yes.
and this is what I'm thinking. So,
Yeah.
kind of showing your thought process.
Absolutely.
I think that also comes across as quite natural because we do that in
Yeah, of
consultations.
course we do.
You don't
Yeah.
just say, you need to go to A&E. It is, I'm
Yes.
worried about this. I think we need to get you
Yeah.
seen today.
Yeah. And
And it kind of
actually
helps.
that's quite a nice segue into relating to others because I think the tendency is when we have maybe hooked on to a diagnosis or if this is serious, it then becomes our agenda of you need to do this or this is what needs to happen. So how do we maximize marks in relating to others? What were the key points for you?
Yeah, so I think this is something that has to be woven through the whole consultation. So right from the beginning, using the your ICE or LICEF.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think right from how you respond to the initial presenting complaint,
Mm,
showing that you care about the impact it's having on them and their life,
yeah.
getting to the crux of what they want, what they're
Mm,
worried about.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that all really that shows really early on that you are empathetic and you're
Yeah.
interested in what they have to say.
I know, I know. I think it's so important is because it's interesting what you said about, it's not just a clerking, and often what we're seeing here, unfortunately, people who are failing and STs who are failing is they do ice in a very sort of clerking type fashion. It's very formulaic, and actually, ice as a concept is not particularly powerful unless you really understand the impact it's having on a patient's life, the feelings, the emotions that go along with that. Did you have any dilemma moments at all?
Yes, I did. I used the word dilemma, not maybe as much as I was prepared to. Um, yeah, so this whole concept of dilemma is so helpful
Yeah.
for moments where you feel you're getting stuck or
Yeah,
there's a difference in, what you feel you need to
I
do.
know, right?
Just naming the dilemma and inviting the patient to problem solve with
Yeah.
you
That
really helps.
collaboration is so important. And the word dilemma allows us to keep the patient in the passenger seat by staying close to their agenda, but also recognizing, we got to stay in control of the wheel and find perhaps a different direction of travel. And I think this aspect of when you were saying, having to admit a patient, I mean, like, who's happy to go to hospital? I mean, no one's happy to go to hospital, really, under the best of circumstances. So inevitably, there will be dilemmas and emotions that need to be worked through. I'm so happy for you. I mean, that's an amazing score. And, I think you were very strategic in, coming on the masterclass early. I know that exciting times are ahead of you. Um, but I just want to focus, I suppose, this last bit on the interview, just in terms of study groups, because what we often see are people studying in the wrong way. They might be using case books, all with good intention, but actually there's no secondary layer, there's no real aspect or lycif to their case. You studied with Alice, and both of you came on the course on the same day, and you both studied really. I mean, we kept in contact in the lead up to the exam, but not just working hard but really smart. What would smart SCA practice look like to you now in retrospect? What would you advise your peers out there to be doing?
Yeah, so I think identifying someone to practice with early on who you get on well with, but that is has a similar intention to you. So both Alice and I really, really wanted to pass this. I know everyone wants to
Yeah,
pass it for different reasons.
yeah.
We really wanted to sit this exam at the time that we did and do really well.
Mm,
Uh, and we'd worked together before in a practice. We knew each other well. We knew we were probably quite similar in our
mm.
approach. So
Yes.
that was helpful. And we really set aside a lot of time. So we prepared over a course of 3 months and we sat
Yeah,
your course right at the beginning of
yeah,
that,
yeah,
really, so that
yeah.
we were both, singing from the same hymn
Hymn
sheet.
sheet.
Um, and then we started off maybe once or twice a week, but built that up quite quickly when we realized how beneficial, how much we were improving with practice. We
Yeah,
sort of built that up to maybe 3 sessions a week,
yeah. Okay.
being very intentional with our time. And
Yeah,
then during the sessions, giving honest feedback.
yeah,
So whether it was, oh, you keep saying
yeah.
whatever filler word it was.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Perfect. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
kind of highlighting those areas that you just don't notice
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And we also recorded some cases
Oh, great.
you did on the course. So
Yeah.
watching yourself back and you
Yeah.
realize,
So you did actually revisit those, which is so important, is it? Because it's quite an eye opener once you've got into it to think, oh gosh, I didn't
yeah,
recognize I was actually doing that on the day. So
yeah.
that's amazing stuff. Well, look, congratulations both to you and Alice. Hopefully, I'll interview Alice when she gets back from wherever she's gone to. No doubt she's having a whale of a time post SCA success.
Well
But what
deserved.
are the plans for you? What's happening for you now?
Yeah, so I'm having a baby in March.
Oh,
So
lovely.
I, I couldn't face having the SCA to
No,
come back to after mat leave.
I
So
know, I
yeah,
know.
I'm really glad to have it done. So yeah, I've got a couple of months left and then I'll be off for hopefully a year.
Oh, fantastic. And when you do come back, how much longer have you got in training before you
I'll,
CCT?
I'll have about 6 months left.
Okay.
So
Okay, so actually it's lovely to get this really onerous challenge out of the way before Christmas. Look forward to a new addition to the family and come back and chill back into GP training. Fantastic.
exactly, yeah. Well, thank
Well,
you so
look,
much.
no problem at all. And please, obviously, we are sister schemes, so anything I can do to help with you, just keep in touch. But thank you so much and have a great Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.